Such affectionate acceptance.
Put a chicken and make her gay.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
They were big. They were hitting hard too, man.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Broaden the areas of participation for women.
That sounds very stylish.
What is my problem?
What do you think?
Beat sitting home watching television?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope everyone had a great Christmas and New Year, or whatever holiday you celebrate. 2024, I thought we'd kick it off with a bang. My guest here tonight is a little bit of a living legend. I'm honored to have him on tonight. And really looking forward to kind of touching a little bit on his book. I know the green screen there is kind of making it all funky, but yeah, look at that. Look at that monster right there. I was fortunate enough to get a review copy, so that was really exciting. Got to do a review, and lo and behold, the coach himself was kind enough to come on here. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get the show started. But since we are dealing with a man that takes no crap, and he can smack around some bitches and everything, we'll go ahead and bring him in with, how about this? Bam! That's pretty much you taking care of the competition, I think.
Yeah. Nice.
Oh, goodness.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. I've had a couple people on in the past that were big names, Aaron Lopresti, and I had
Happy birthday, Aaron Lopresti.
Yes, it is his big 6-0, by the way. I'm sorry, I'm crashing his party a little bit, but what you gonna do? And I had Mike Barron on. He kind of helped me close out the last year and everything. And but now starting fresh with the legend, the Wolfman himself, Jon Malin. So thank you again. And I definitely wanted to say, wow.
Great.
I'm not gonna lie. When I first read the opening here, right when at the title page, make sure. I'm just gonna turn this green screen off because it's gonna interfere with all the beautiful artwork. So we'll cut it off.
Let me shout out while you're doing that. Tommy Patterson is the artist on that. So if you guys haven't seen or heard of this before, I wrote it. I created the Omega Storm title here. But it's part of the Graveyard Shift universe, which is much more vast. So we've done 4 volumes of Graveyard Shift. We're going to do the 5th one probably in February. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Omega Storm is part of a supplemental that we do with Graveyard Shift. So there's supplemental 1, 2, 3, and the Omega Storm is supplemental 4. So you'll see on the cover it still says Graveyard Shift, but once you open it, it's treated as if it's its own comic. So and that fits right in between Graveyard Shift volume 4 and 5, but it is standalone. So you don't need it. You don't need it to enjoy the Graveyard Shift title. You get this if you have this one book, you can just read this one book. It sets up the team from the get-go. So if you don't know who they are, user-friendly.
And for those who are not aware, the Graveyard Shift, they were kind of your take on the X-Men, kind of like Universal Monsters meets the X-Men kind of thing.
Mark Polton came up with the idea, and I think he might have had the original tagline. I'm not sure. If not, we developed it later, but it was, what if the Universal Monsters were the X-Men? So we went. Everyone's out there. John, sir, it's not a herpy. This is I got chapped lips, and I'm
giving you
at it.
I see.
But if it's a herpy, I'll let you guys know. It's not. This one is just chapped lips.
That happened to me. I've never had the cold sore on the lip, so knock on wood. But when I was out skiing, I'm not used to the dry air, and I woke up one morning. I had this nasty, gnarly thing on there. I look like Igor or something like that. And I'm like, oh my God, I have herpes. But no, it wasn't. I don't know how I would have got it, but I don't know. I guess it comes in the snow. But yeah, like I said, that first opening page, and obviously I know I'm sure some people are still receiving their book or might not have read it yet.
Yeah, we're still doing fulfillment on it. Yeah,
I'm not.
I was actually debating about, because I have about 50 copies, because I did It Came From the Vault campaign where I just put some extra copies on there, and I have about 50 of them that were just sitting on there. I was thinking about making it go live again, so I don't know. I might do that this week.
Yeah.
So if you guys are looking to get a Megastorm, I got a lot of people asking for it, and they have FOMO, regret.
Yeah, I had a couple people that commented in the review. They're like, "Oh my God, that looks dope. Where can I get a copy?" And I'm like, I'm sorry, Malin, Malin does, here's the campaign, get in on it. If you miss it, I'm sorry. But you do offer this stuff kind of on the subsequent campaigns.
Every time I do a campaign, yep. So if I do a
little markup.
If I do a graveyard shift, well, that's with the original books, because, if it's something, especially if it's more exclusive, like the Malin Virgin cover for Omega Storm, like, that's meant to be more exclusive, so that gets marked up. But like I think I sold the Tommy Patterson cover for the same, but they're all small runs. So eventually, what my goals are for everything is to collect things, to make them smaller or cheaper, smaller in price. So more affordable for people is the ultimate goal for almost everything I've done. So like even Graveyard Shift, I've taken volume 1 and volume 2. I made a collected edition of that. Separately, they're $25 a piece, but they both sold, and they sold well. So they've made their money back. So at that point, I can collect them, and then I can make what I consider to be like consumer copies. So now they're thicker, but now you can get 2 books for $25. And then we did the same, with volume 3 and volume 4. I don't think we're going to do any kind of collected right now with like Omega Storm, because it's already 158 pages. So it is its own collected edition.
This blew me away. When it came in, and first when I picked up the Gemini mailer, I was like, what the freaking hell? Like, how many copies did you put in here?
felt like an actual book was in there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what is this? We don't read no stinking books around here. But got it out, and holy crap. The value is unbelievable. Now, did you set out to make it this girthy? Like this much of a story?
I didn't set out and say I wanted to make a 158 page book. I think originally it was meant to be maybe like, I don't know, maybe 120 or something like that. But scenes grow and you get new ideas as you're going through it. So, and I'm discovering that what my own personal process is it's a lot. It's writing the script, getting that off to the artist, and then when we go into the lettering phase, like I like to get the entire script laid down. Then you see what fits and what doesn't fit, or what flows and what doesn't flow. And there's no way to do it until you've seen the lettering. But if you look at the book, there's a fair amount of dialogue that I'm doing here. So we have to go through there. We have to shift things. We have to cut things, or we have to lengthen things. And sometimes I want a bigger balloon because I think it fills up like a dead space a little bit better. So the whole thing is all, trying to get not just enough words and what's going on and building that story, but also trying to build the word balloons to where they're part of the art as well.
Yeah, exactly. Make things. It blend in, complement each other. How long was the process from like start to finish? Like when you had
real
the concept?
Real long. Well, the concept wasn't too difficult for me. But we started on this because I brought Tommy on because he had already done a supplemental fill-in for me.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, like how you found him and everything.
I've known Tommy for years. Like I've known him since the early 2000s, just as a guy that would occasionally bump into on like the Rob Liefeld message boards. I met him in person at a convention one year. I'm probably around 2010 or something like that. I think we smoked weed.
And you remember?
Yeah. I've had a few weed smoke encounters. But anyways, yeah. So we've been friendly. And he, I don't know, I think he DM'd me or something like that on Twitter. He's always been friendly the entire Comicsgate time, so he's always been an ally to me, I guess. And
that's something important. A lot of people,
Mhm.
you see who your real friends are, the ones that kind of stood by you when the whole CG thing went down.
Yeah. So anyways, but yeah, I mean, so he's always been kind of on my radar, and I think he reached out about doing a pinup or something like that. And then I think it just became a little bit of prodding back and forth, maybe until eventually he was like, yeah, I'll do sequentials or something. So yeah, it's something along the lines of that.
And then lo and behold, so
Yeah.
I felt like he really complimented your style really well. And you have like when you draw, I kind of noticed you have like a very kind of distinctive style with how you do the shapes of the bodies and everything. Just kind of like that signature 90s kind of flair, but you put your own spin on it. And I still feel like, even Tommy even though he was bringing his own kind of flavor to it, it still, really complemented your style.
Yeah.
So, and
yeah.
the coloring too.
Real quick with Tommy.
Sure.
So when we brought him on, about how long back to how long the process was, when I brought him on to get started on this, we did maybe 40 pages, maybe that first 50 pages, whenever the Rick Rogers is standing there with his powers all glowing. I think we got right to about there. And then I had a couple of artists completely flake out on me once again for some supplemental work. And I just said, Tommy, do you want to go over here and work on this? So what ended up being this Brahms story. So Tommy got a break basically from doing a team book, and then he got to work on a solo character. And I think that kind of recharged his batteries because he was kind of like relearning. I don't think he had ever done superhero comics, even though he's always wanted to do them. He's always been a fan of them. But he did like Game of Thrones. I think he did some other story adaptation or something like that. So I mean, just kind of like real, different genre,
right? Like more fantasy type, or
more. Well, yeah, but I mean, just kind of more straightforward. Like when I think superhero, I think Kirby. Things that coming at you. These more dynamic things instead of people on horses kind of talking.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, so he was getting his mojo, I think, on those first 50 pages. But when he got to Brahm, he finally got to relax a little bit because it's one main character, some bad guys, some settings. And then when he came back to Megastorm, which was 4 or 5 months later, then he really started taking off from there. And now even the stuff he's doing on Graveyard Shift 5, which is what he's working on right now, some of that stuff is really, really next level as well. So, I mean, Tommy's really kind of growing. Clayton Barton has been working as an editor on that book for me.
The Bartons are crazy. Yeah, I love their Kozar was a lot of fun.
Yeah. And Clayton has been like kind of really pushing Tommy in the beginning, like, and I did as well. I feel like you can push somebody to a certain point, you know what I mean? Like, just to say, this is what the expectation is.
Yeah.
And then you have to let them go after that. I mean,
how much
they have to run wild.
Initially
a lot with me and Tommy, and initially I think with Clayton and Tommy. So I think when you come in as an editor, like, and again, I mean, a lot of this stuff we're learning because editors today, they're not the old school editors. Even artists today, they don't have the drive of a lot of the old school artists, like Kirby's,
or
that
might even just use a program.
Yeah. People that were using having to do 2-3 pages, a day. Now that's not necessarily required to do that because now the art form has grown to where now people do very super detailed work. But anyway, so you can work with a guy to a point, but the idea is still, things I'm learning as well is that when you're hiring somebody, you're hiring them for what they can do. So. But sometimes what they can do and what they show on like a social media or whatever, it's a high end piece. And then when they get a job, a lot of them, they try to lower the bar real quick. And I'm not saying this is Tommy, I'm just saying in general. So you got to be like, hey, I want you back up to that high end level. Like, this is what I'm hiring you for. So if they can hit that level that you've hired them on, and run with that. Some people are just perfect. They just go, but sometimes you got to nudge people and be like, hey, back up.
Yeah.
Get back
that
up
work
here,
ethic
man.
back
Yeah,
up.
get back up here. And so anyways, yeah. So, but you can push somebody to a certain degree and then you have to let them go. And that means just either you let them run wild with what they got, or you have to literally let them go. And sorry, this isn't working out. And try to cut your losses at, 5 pages.
It's I would imagine it's got to be kind of intimidating first trying to work with you. I watched some of the episodes when you used to kind of review people's work and give them pointers, and I really respected that. But I know just in life in general, it can be hard to take criticism sometimes, and I imagine as an artist especially, it can be hard to take criticism because you put all that time and energy and effort into creating something. And then, you have a more experienced person just say, hey, like it could probably be better here. You have a good start, but, there's always room for improvement.
We're all egomaniacs trying to deal with egomaniacs. Like,
but you have to be, I think you have to be.
And the person who says they're not an egomaniac and they're doing this, they're the biggest egomaniac. So we all have egos and we're all trying to balance those. And you either find a balance or you don't.
Yeah, for sure. So it was obviously, I don't want to spoil anything because people are still getting the book. I think kind of like you had some well, I don't really want to say controversy, but I know when EVS kind of spoiled the ending a little bit before he retracted that tweet and everything. There was a lot of chatter on Twitter where people were like, oh my God, like really? This is in there? Oh
violent,
my God.
Very violent. Yeah.
Very violent. And I think EVS actually described it pretty well yesterday. And don't worry, folks, I'm not going to give anything away. But he kind of described that ending as Grindhouse-esque. Is that what you were going for?
I mean, I'm definitely pulling from, like so Graveyard Shift again is what if the Universal Monsters is the X-Men. That's like the core of Graveyard Shift. So, as we've moved the series on, we played in the different tropes. So we did vampires, Frankenstein, the classics, and then we did kind of 80s type character, the slasher character, and in Graveyard Shift it's Killer 99. But he's got telekinesis as well. So when I was developing Omega Storm, the next thing was the late 90s, early 2000s of what people call torture porn. Hostel, Saw. These more very violent, over the top horror genres. So that's what I set out to do with that. And yeah, I would say Grindhouse fits in there pretty well.
I was, I'm not going to lie, I was like pretty disturbed. I right when they have the reveal of the character and he's kind of getting ready and everything, you see that little silhouette of him taking a shower. I'm like, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here.
Okay, that's not a big spoiler. But it is funny because I told Tom, I said, give him a big dick. And
it was
and then, hold on. That's only half. I said no, bigger.
Yeah,
so he had to go back and redraw it twice. So yeah, it's like bigger, dude. Yeah,
it's a really hot shower.
It's I try to take with that end scene like the worst thing that I could possibly think of, and then how do I kind of take that to another level? Because I've seen it done before or implied to be done before.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it done before in horror, and I can't say what that is without giving away what my ending is. But I've seen that type of thing done before, and I said, how do I do that? Because that was the one big standout to me. I'm like, that's fucked up.
Well, it was like panel from panel. It was like, oh shit. As you're revealing more and more what's about to happen, you're just like, is he going there? Is he going there? And then it happens, and you're like, oh shit, he did it.
Yeah.
And I had to put the book down for a second and just kind of stare off into space. But yeah, that.
Yeah, and so, but I took what I had seen, and I said, how do I make that even worse?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that awareness, if you know what I mean, that awareness of the situation is the worst that I could think to make it.
Right.
So that's as crazy as fucked up as I could get. And then the dedication directly on the opposing
yeah,
page,
when that came up too, I was like,
yeah.
Oh, that's gonna get some people talking.
Yeah,
all the right people.
Yeah, I think if it was full spoiler, I think it'd be, there'd be some stuff going on with it.
Yeah, is there any reason, without saying who the dedication's to and all that kind of stuff, did you have a specific reason you picked that person to dedicate? Okay. All right. So
yeah,
I'm hoping later on.
If people research that person just a little bit, they'll come up with the connection pretty easily, because it was a complaint that person had about the industry.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
So when you see that, the entire story, you should be reprocessing and then going through there. And that was like one of the, that was like my last hurrah. I was like, how do I get the strongest ending to this story that I can possibly do, and then put a dedication in here for basically my muse as a fuck you.
Yeah.
And then to let that kind of recycle to the people that are in the know of the situation of what all this means. So it was to do power, and then power one more time.
Yeah, that was how I felt.
Power in the story, and then power to come out into the real world and back into the story is what I was hoping that the reader would kind of, if they're in the know, that I hope they get that kind of experience on the whole.
Yeah. So yeah, I would strongly suggest that for those who haven't read it yet, when you do and you get to the dedication, look it up. Like John's saying here,
it should be a 1-2 punch for people that really, yeah.
You
maybe a
slapped
1-2-3, maybe a 1-2-3 punch. But yeah,
I have to say, one of my favorite aspects to this too was the just like how every character kind of felt like they had their own unique voice. So when you were reading their dialogue, I felt like I could, kind of hear them speaking in my mind, and that they had their own unique personality and everything. I really like that, like the banter with Kronos and Ark and everything. I thought they had that funny kind of friendly ball busting relationship. And then, Rick, and then the Russian, what was the Russian guy's name again?
Red Dawn. Yeah, Red Dawn.
Yeah. He, he kind of cracked me up because he didn't have a whole lot to say. He was like pretty, succinct, like, I will save you. It kind of reminded me of Ivan Drago and everything a little bit.
It was a little bit of the Ivan Drago, a little bit of just Arnold, there's a line in there where he calls Rick Rogers a weakling,
Yeah.
or something like that. This weakling Rick Rogers will come in. Yeah, like that. That's what I'm hearing. And there's a doctor in there, the one in the Steve Buscemi scene. I'm not, if you're aware, the doctor, he has a certain way of speaking. And Eric asked me while he was lettering, and he's like, is that, I don't know who he thought. I don't remember who he thought it was, like the rhythm of the language, but it's the rhythm of the language of the doctor from Jurassic Park. Jeff Goldblum. So there's a lot of ahs in his.
So now I want to go back and read it again, so I can hear it in my head this time. How did you come up with Georgie Porgy?
Well, I always like that. I don't know, just the nursery rhyme, kind of.
I had never heard that nursery rhyme before, but when I was doing,
that's weird. I've heard that a couple of times, that people have never heard the Georgie Porgy thing. I've heard that my entire life. I don't know.
I wonder if it's regional
thing. Yeah, it must be a regional thing. But yeah, but it was like the one nursery. I'm just like, this whole nursery rhyme's fucked up. You know?
Yeah, I was looking for a song, like a version of the song that I could just put in the background of the review when it was addressing Georgie Porgy going on his killing spree. And like, God, I had that song, like the verses stuck in my head for several days afterwards, you know, just kind of singing it and humming it in my head. But it's such a kind of childish name and sound. But then it's also at the same time when you kind of contrast that to what the serial killer is doing, it's like, wow, it you know, I think it kind of mashes up really, really nicely.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate that. Yeah.
I think I have a theory of who the killer is.
Yeah, let's hear it. No, I won't. I won't give you any clues if you're right or wrong, but I will probably just say, So, but yeah, I am interested in knowing who people think it is and why. So,
well, there's this scene, and obviously because the book is so thick, I don't know if I could find it quickly, but when they have to address or confront the coming danger in space, and they're getting ready to, I guess, plan that one assault on that prison planet. And so you have to have the guys, you know, kind of get together and form a distraction so the assault teams can go in and do what they need to do.
the Supermen.
Yes. So you have the Superman guy and his crew.
Stalwart. Yeah.
Yes, Stalwart. And so that's kind of who I was leaning towards. Now, I know that we just said it, the Russian, I'm going to call him
Red
Drago.
Dawn.
Red Dawn. So I know Red Dawn has his own little thing going on, but I think it's connected. That's like my theory, but I'm going with Stalwart. That's my final answer.
Excellent. Yeah, good guesses. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, obviously,
I will say it. Well, first, nobody knows who it is except me. Like Mark asked me when he's like, "Who's Georgie Port?" I'm like, if I die, the story doesn't finish.
Oh,
so
Jesus! No, put it on a flash drive.
Pray for my health.
Oh my dear Lord, baby.
But
Jesus.
no, I do know exactly who Georgie Porgy is and why. And I will say that if you take everything that we've done in Graveyard Shift, you've seen Georgie Porgy.
Okay, so now I got to go
Yeah.
delve back into it. Will we have the resolution in the next Graveyard Shift book?
I won't say.
Okay. But the story continues.
The story continues into Graveyard Shift 5, like without missing a beat. Like Graveyard Shift 5 literally picks up still on that planet, and it's the escape. So in the intro. So I think it's like a 20-page sequence, just the escape. So and it's a 70-page book. So.
I loved all the action and everything in it too, especially when they were, you know, on the mission and in that whole escape sequence and everything. And then when things kind of go tits up, as they say, the action is just really fun.
Yeah, I don't remember how much I wrote. I'm sure I wrote some of the sequences, but I know that also I there's probably a good chunk in there where I'm just like, Tommy, just fill from here to there with things blowing up.
Lots of stuff. And I like when they're trying to go through and the younger kind of recruit guy on Omega Storm, Tracer. Yeah, he's trying to figure out
Tracer
the
and
codes.
Hi-Fi.
Yeah, to get in there, and you have that tension and I love how you did the art in there where it says whoosh and everything, but you have some great tension in there.
Tommy did some hand lettering in there as well. I think it might have been the whoosh, that stuff I think is hand lettered. So and then whatever, I'm not sure who inked that page, but that page actually might have got inked twice. So, two different inkers.
I noticed there were several inkers on this book.
Yep.
And I'm guessing like where Gabe El Taib's part in there, that it kind of.
Oh, that was on coloring. Yeah, several colorists too. Yeah, so Gabe.
Oh yeah,
colored,
and not inkers, but yeah,
Anthony,
the
same, no,
colorists.
both. We had on inking. We had Jimmy Reyes, Nick
Yeah.
Schley, Ben Smith. On colors, we had Snakebite Cortez. We had Gabe El Taib. We had Anthony George, who is the regular graveyard shift colorist, also, by the way.
And how does that work out with so many different colorists? Do they have to kind of? Did you have
makes
to
it
pick
painful?
Initial...
Makes it painful. Look, you want to hire one person to do an entire book. So when that doesn't happen, then you have to find a way to make everything work. The most difficult thing is that Snakebite Cortez was. Well, it might have been Gabe, might have been the first. I don't know if Gabe came first or second, but Snakebite did a good chunk of part 1, and then we parted ways. And so Snakebite had a real distinct style, and I was going to have him do Godlike as well, which is why, but in the meantime, I'm like, hey, color this. The problem is that he is so distinct that it's hard to kind of
emulate that kind of thing.
Yeah, or smooth out the edges to where you can get back into the more mainstream style, which is what I think was accomplished here. So there's only a couple of pages in there, I think, that really are like color-wise, I'm like, it's a little bit different. Inking was a lot easier. Like brought in Jimmy. Jimmy had to go.
Oh no.
Brought in another guy to replace him who was actually surprisingly really good, but he didn't work out either. And then I brought in Ben Smith, who just so happens to ink because he became my colorist for Godlike. But he's coloring for me while I'm looking for an inker. And I asked him if he knew any inkers. And he's like, well, actually, I ink. And I'm like, really? So I had him do a couple samples and it was bang on. And he did it in no time. Ben Smith was inking when he came on, I want to say 10 pages a week.
Wow.
And for anybody else in that's doing a regular monthly job, that's borderline average. Yeah. So I mean, he just flew. He flew and he didn't miss a beat. I had minimal corrections. Ben Smith just blew the doors off everybody else that worked on that book. And the inking, I would say, is actually pretty seamless. Yeah. So the coloring was a little bit more tricky, but Anthony George came in and was able to kind of smooth out. Anthony George and Gabe El Taib both color essentially the same. So I just had to kind of get Anthony to kind of, whenever he was working around the Snakebite pages, he had a couple gaps he had to fill. So he had to color like Snakebite, but then try to work it back out on the edges to where it's not like it transitions from one to like jarring to new style. So it just kind of smoothed out. And I think that worked.
As the layman and just the reader, it felt like everything jived together really well. I don't recall anywhere where I was like, this looks kind of weird. I'm sure, since you have it close to you and it's, kind of close to your chest, you probably see the little details that you were talking about there. But
sure. Yep.
As a reader, just a regular reader, it felt clean and uniform. So
that's good, because that's the goal. Because I as a comic fan, I've read many, books that where you see a creative change and you're like, oh, this is different. Oh, this is different. Different inker. And when you see it in inker, that sucks, because if you can emulate the style, at least for the remainder of that book, that's kind of like the way I would like to see things go. And thank God I found 3 inkers over the course of a year to 2 years that all inked similarly.
So was it mostly like
fairly
just
tame?
Yeah, I know.
That's the worst criticism I've heard, is that it's fairly tame. I
want to know what the hell he's reading,
Yeah.
The next script for Saw 20 or something like that.
Yeah. If you go by stuff like that, it probably is pretty tame. Sure.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to break in people that they see one odd thing. One decapitated head, it's the end of the world.
Oh
So the comic book industry is different. Like, it's built different still. It's like everyone thinks that it's going to be for kids, and I am a believer that Marvel and DC are still for kids. Specifically Marvel. DC's always been a little bit more darker.
Yeah.
But I've also always said, I've also always said that when you're in the independent market, you should be able to do whatever you want as long as it's legal.
Yeah. I mean, obviously there are certain avenues, morally. Well, I wouldn't even say morally, but there's certain things you just don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. We'll leave that for the wood chippers and whatnot. A lot of people coming in. Thank you everyone for joining me with the amazing Jon Malin. If you wouldn't mind, please consider subscribing and please hit that like button. It really helps me out.
Absolutely. And share it out too. Go on social media. Let
do.
people know we're happening over here.
If anybody has questions here, obviously we don't want to spoil the book for anyone, but if anyone has any questions for Malin, please shoot them my way and I will pop them up.
It's just going to ask why I'm gay. Yeah, see, Java, Malin is gay, right?
Oh my God.
As soon as I said that, Malin is gay.
B-Spin's like, send the link to Rini. I know this kind of is a little rough to read. But I thought it was.
Wait, do you mean literally? Because there's a printing error in the text.
Well,
If you look at it on the right, it's good, crisp, white text. If you look at it on the left, there's almost like a blur going on.
It
makes it a little bit more difficult. It does make it difficult to read. But in terms of the volume of text there, that's more than even I would like to have. But it's important to set up what happens after that, because I'm trying to quickly introduce how this team kind of gets together. But also establish how vicious Georgie Porgy is. Once that's, because if I don't get that across in the first, I think it's maybe 6 pages. If I don't get that across in the first 6 pages, then the ending of it doesn't hit as hard as I'm trying to get it to hit people hard. And I think it worked. So if you can get through those first 6 pages, well, definitely the first 2. The other ones I think are a little bit more, you can deal with them a little bit better, but those 2 pages specifically are the heaviest.
Well, I'll tell you my experience when I actually read it on the plane. The first half of it on the plane, and so you have that great opening, and there also too this page. I'm going to get back to it. That kind of black quote page there, but I'm going to get back to that in a second. So you have that just literally killer opening where it's like, holy crap, this sets the tone that you're not playing around.
Good.
And then you turn the next page and I was like, oh no, not reading. But then once I got into the of what was going on, you kind of get into the news broadcast aspect of it, and it felt like a natural kind of, okay, this is what's going on in this world. This is what's happened to this person. And like you said, it does set up Georgie Porgy's reign of terror really nicely. So
it's dense. It's dense for sure. But if you've read things like Frank Miller, it's not anything that's out of the norm. Even Todd did like the newspaper pages, and they can be pretty dense too. So it happens. It's in comics. So
yeah, for sure. Was there an inspiration? Like, I know you just said that Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane have done stuff like this, but
that is literally how Todd does it.
Okay.
Like the 6 panels. Panels.
I'm new to comics, it was.
So Todd McFarlane, when he was working on Spawn, I imagine it's still going on. I haven't read Spawn, since like issue 20 or whenever Todd stopped working on it. But when he will literally draw 6 panels, it's always 6 panels, and then he will put the text up above the panels, and probably I think even in white on top of black. You may not do that consistently. I mean, you can always flip it to white and use black text, but I think it's always black with white text. So even when I brought in Eric Weathers, the letter, the original Graveyard Shift volume 1, I said specifically I wanted someone that could letter like Tom Orzechowski, who lettered the original Spawn.
Yeah.
So and plenty of other stuff before that. I mean, you look at Tom Orzechowski, he's worked on everything like Marvel. But anyways, I'm a fan of his lettering. So that's what I was looking for. And then Eric sent back stuff that looked almost dead on like Spawn. So from day one, that, kind of homaging that Spawn, which is also a horror comic aesthetic, has been ingrained into Graveyard Shift intentionally. Yeah, including all of our news scenes. They're done exactly like Todd does them.
Yeah, Space Zeus was saying the difference is that when Todd did it, it stopped the comic cold, but here it works. So, yeah, I liked
probably because of the brutality that's just being described. So,
yeah, it was pretty brutal. Yeah, the rats.
Yeah. Yeah, rats being sewn into vaginas.
Yeah,
a man's penis being cut off and choked to death on it. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, his lifestyle. I mean, maybe that was the way he wanted to go out.
Yeah, I put in a line there. I don't know if anybody's caught it yet, but there's actually a joke in that line, in that little chunk of dialogue, is that his corridors are forever sealed.
Jesus.
His butt and his mouth. I don't know if anybody picked up on that, but anyways, I thought it was funny.
Brutal.
I think I even bolded a word or two in there to kind of like, hey guys, there's a joke here. And
so
whatever, it's subtle, it's there.
And then getting back to the quote on here, and I have horrible lighting. So
no, that is a horrible text. We printed it too dark. I wanted to do black on black, like Metallica's Black Album.
Yeah,
we had done black on black before in the collected edition. I don't know if I have a collected edition by me, but it worked out really good on the collected edition. And when we were doing this, we went darker. We should not have went darker because I figure at any point, and this is with writing as well, if you don't understand it kind of quickly, if you have to kind of work to understand, like, what is he saying here, then it's wrong. It may not technically be wrong, but it's wrong. And so like that dark, that's too dark because you have to kind of struggle to see it. It should be a little bit more legible, but black on black was the intent, but it's too black. All right.
This is what I took from it, though. It was kind of funny because your quote here is, "You cannot fight mediocrity with." Sorry, I'm trying to read it.
Yeah, it's terrible. You cannot fight mediocrity with mediocrity.
Yeah, thank you so much. But here the thing was.
Oh, and there was one last bit. I don't remember what it was.
I'm sitting here. I'm trying. I'm sorry, guys.
Mediocrity from the same angle, I think is.
Yes. But here's how I kind of took it. I thought, I wondered if maybe you intentionally made it tougher to read because it's like you have to fight to read it. So
yes, but not that much.
Right.
Right. That's too dark. So it should be there. It should be noticeable, but it should be, the intent was that if you had just looked on it on the first pass, maybe you didn't even notice it. But then on the second pass, maybe you looked a little more close and you're like, oh, there's text here. Like it shouldn't be that black where it's like, So that's why I say that is wrong. When we go back to press someday, that thing will be lightened up, maybe 15%, but it will still be hopefully missed, but not, once you notice it, you shouldn't struggle to read it.
I do like the black on black though, but I thought, kind of a tongue in cheek kind of thing that you were just saying, like, look, damn it, I'm even going to make you fight to read this quote.
Yes, that was the intent. That was the intent. Just not that it worked
not
too
that
well.
hard.
It worked too well. Yeah.
But in the right lighting, it's really good. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on too, if you don't mind, is, and I'm not going to say what it is, but you had a nice little cameo towards the end of the book. Was that the first appearance of this person?
Hold on, I'm trying to think of the cameo. What do you mean?
Darius?
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. No. He appeared in Graveyard Shift Volume 4.
Okay, yeah, I still have to crack that bad boy.
Yeah, we established that he snuck himself onto the ship because he's a kid. So nobody knows he's there except for in Volume 4. We established that one of the characters in Omega Storm, Jack Stone, who is on who's partaking in that raid. It's the only one that actually knows that there's a kid, that kid on board outside of Tracer and Hi-Fi. So, that would be his second appearance in the Graveyard Shift universe. Mm-hmm.
I got you.
His first appearance would have been in the Black Riding Hood book, but that took so long to get the press that Graveyard Shift already came out for like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
Will we see more of him in action?
Yep. Yeah. He's on the ship, so he's in Graveyard Shift 5 again. It takes off right where this leaves off. So they're going to eventually get back to the ship with the disc, and so there's a whole scene of Vlad getting the disc, and now everyone will know that Darius is on the ship, so it'll be common knowledge now. So nothing you can do about it, and the journey's already begun. You can't turn around, and I wrote in there, and Tom Tuttle compared it with like the Odyssey and stuff, but I wrote in there the actual line that this is a new Odyssey, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, this is like the big adventure. If you're a kid, if you're being called to destiny, like, do you want to miss out on, the biggest adventure that's ever going to happen?
Yeah.
Most kids would say, no, I don't want to be on that ship. I don't want to be anywhere near a war or a battle. But I bet if shit was going down, just like, in these other countries, there's children out there that are willing to pick up, some grenades and start chucking them, and it may not be great, but that's life. And so there are kids on this ship, and they are getting involved in, adult combat. So
is there more to his character? Like, will we see more abilities or anything like that as the stories unfold?
Yes, not in the way that anybody's expecting it to happen, though. So if you have expectations, I got a whole funky thing that I actually want to do with Darius. But I have to kind of temper it because I am planning on doing a Black Riding Hood campaign at some point. Mm-hmm. So in order to do the changes that I want to do to him, I would be evolving where he's at, and then I would have to devolve him to do the Black Riding Hood series, because the Black Riding Hood series would be in Detroit. It'd be stuff he's doing before. Yeah. Because there's actually a reference. I guess it's in 5, where Vlad recognizes that Darius is the same kid from Detroit. Yeah. And because he's heard of this werewolf killer from Detroit, and so all of that can still exist in almost like a prequel. There's a whole storyline with gang banging werewolves that I'm planning on
that
doing.
Ass.
So do at least one good campaign with Black Riding Hood. I think that'd be pretty cool. And but then after that one campaign comes out and that book is out, then I can do the evolution of the character. So timing will be kind of tight on that. So
I think the one thing I really admired about him, and actually admire about you, especially with everything this going on in this day and age, I was thinking the other day, I find myself kind of unintentionally censoring my language for fear that, someone will take it out of context or, get offended or whatever. And I like that. It used to be that you didn't worry about that. Like, people would kind of judge you on your actions and everything. Like, I grew up 80s, 90s, and it felt like in the 90s, we were almost at a point where, the race and everything didn't really matter. Like, we were so close, right? Mm-hmm. And And now that's all gone out the window. Everything is very divisive now. And it's like everything has to be about what you can't control, like who you find attractive, who you want to sleep with, what do you look like? I like that, like you just get on the internet and you say what you want to say. It doesn't seem like you self-censor or censor. And like, you're not a bigot and everything. And you're like, I want people, people can judge me how I interact with them. I don't care. If somebody happens to see a clip out of context online, and they take that out of, you're just not going to be intimidated by that. And I'm trying to get over that. I think just we kind of get beaten down with it, on a daily basis. Like, I don't want to be accused of being a racist. I'm not a racist. And it used to be like we would judge each other on the content of our character. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is anymore. But so many people would be afraid to touch, like, Darius, like the character of Darius, like not touch him, but
the language and I mean, we live in an age right now, sadly, where there are real racists out there that are saying that you can't write a character that isn't your own race or your own experience or whatnot, and that is the worst thing I've ever heard creatively in my entire life. And that's where we are in that's where we've been since about 2018 to 2024 now. That still goes on. Even though I wrote this story, people were asking me to, hey, do you have black friends? Like I have to be the white guy to be like, my best friend's black. And everyone's like, everyone says that. You're racist. You know what I mean? So I don't try to hold up black people as my shields, creatively. Like that's really my whole point is I'm doing something creative. And it's going to irk some people and what I'm showing, what I'm saying. And it's just, I just don't care. I'm at the point where I'm like, I have 15, I don't know, maybe 25 years of life if I'm lucky, and I'm going to go through what's left. I'm going to burn it all down. I don't care. I don't care. Let people say that I'm a bigot or whatever. I don't have time to really defend that. I have time to kind of keep making my work. And I mean, I'll say what I can say, while I'm on a stream, whatnot. But
while we can still say it,
I look at that negative energy is really being, I'd be like, I can at least use it as promotional energy.
Yeah.
So, when people are, trying to bring me down, oh, he did this, he said that, whatever. And like, okay, all right, well, I'm going to get him talking. Let him keep talking. Everyone check these books out and see what they're talking about. Everything right on to the dedication. I mean, that's act of war. So, I don't care if I've hurt that person's feelings at all. The damage they've done, from my point of view of the industry is much, much greater. Or at least the damage that they've contributed in terms of the ideologies that have gone into the superhero genre of comic books. Which is the only genre I care about. I'm not.
It used to be inspiring. Like I remember being a little kid. I was never an avid comic reader, but just seeing I was familiar with who the Flash was, Superman, Batman, X-Men, and you looked at these really iconic, heroic-looking characters, and it was something to aspire to be. And now they've just kind of turned them into these like sniveling little, just pathetic victims. And it's like, why do I want to read about victims? I want to read about heroes doing heroic things. And I hate how they've tainted pop culture in general.
Yeah. But with superheroes, for me, it's like, look what they've done to these heroes. They've cut off their dicks and crammed them down their throats. That's what they've done to our heroes. So that's who the enemy is. And that's a theme.
When I first heard Ethan talking about that comic where Superman gets raped, That sickened me. Like, how do you do that? He's like the symbol of everything that's pure and good, and what every human being on the planet should strive to be, to try to be a better person. And they do something that degenerate and just humiliating to him. I think that speaks volumes about where their headspace is. And that's what really got me on board with CG and everything. Was just, you're giving us the alternative, and really, I really appreciate that.
I'm trying to give you a bit of a metaphor, but I'm also trying to show you that the bad guys are really bad. Like, they're not mistakenly bad. They're just bad people. They're really bad people, and really bad people and really evil people do exist. Ethan said everyone thinks that the hero in the story. I don't think everyone thinks they're the hero in their story. I don't think Ted Bundy thought he was the hero in his story.
No,
I think some people are just sick and twisted. So the bad guys are bad. But also Rick Rogers is not bad. Rick Rogers is meant to be kind of he is not your Superman. He doesn't fly. But
I felt like a Superman-esque vibe.
He is kind of the classic. Yes, he's the classic kind of, hopefully hero of the story. And it doesn't mean he's perfect, but he's, he is the good guy. He's the guy that hopefully people can feel like they can get behind. Out of everybody else, Rick Rogers is Superman.
Right. And you showed too, like
he's not meant to
he
be
lost
bad.
his powers and he still wanted to be with the team and help lead. And I think that showed a lot about his character and
sacrifice. He wanted to
exactly.
sacrifice himself.
So I like that a lot. Getting back to Darius, I was kind of thinking, he would have been a better kind of Miles Morales character than what the writers did with Miles Morales. Like, you took a completely new character and gave him his own identity and made him unique and interesting. And it just kind of makes you wonder, like, they keep taking the established characters and swapping genders, swapping races. It's like, it's like, if you could do it, why can't they do it? Why do they have to? Well, I mean, we know why they're doing it, to tear everything down.
They're not creative people. That's why. I mean, the last big boom of creativity was in the 90s. And, look at Rob Liefeld, and he was just shooting out character after character after character. I tried to offer up new characters, and it was just, there was no interest. There was nothing. So, I mean, that's just a sign of where we are. They just want to recycle what's already there or rebrand it. And maybe that's for, copyright purposes and whatnot, ownership purposes. And, that's okay. That's fine. But there's not an environment of creativity that exists, at least not from my perspective when I worked at Marvel. The stories were seemingly dictated by editorial, like even Thunderbolts. I think Jim, what was his name? Jim Zub. I almost said Rub. That Rub? Jim Zub. Like, I think that guy actually had some good ideas. He shared one with me that was completely shot down for, I think, the Miles Morales issue that we did, which was just stuff that was kind of playing into the Secret Empire event that Marvel was doing at the time. And I was like, well, that's sad, man, because it sounded like he had a really good idea. And, but instead we get a done in one bash him up with Miles Morales. And the only way I can make that interesting for me was to draw a lot of Kira Kurosawa rain. If you ever watched Seven Samurai, Rashomon, like Kurosawa is known for like just putting a shit ton of rain in his film. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do this whole battle thing. But I'm going to do it with a shit ton of rain. Also a little bit of Blade Runner in there too. I tried to get a red neon sign going on while they were fighting. And maybe a little Highlander. Anyways, yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of was making that interesting for me. But I mean, I really felt like almost immediately on Thunderbolts, it was spinning our wheels. I'm like, we need these guys to be other people, like we need to get some kind of mystery. We got to get something going on here. And it was just, no. Done in one. Wait for the event. Get the event thing in there. Oh, now the event's ready for Kobik. So we kind of wrap this series up. And it's like, why didn't we have the entire team be other people? Like that was the original Thunderbolts, was that they were heroes, but in actuality, they were all villains that were like portraying themselves as heroes. So once that was like revealed, everybody was like, oh shit, Thunderbolts. That's what Thunderbolts was. So when we're bringing back Thunderbolts, and okay, well, we got Bucky on it. Well, everyone knows who Bucky is. And people were thinking that maybe Fixer, I can't remember the other, Moonstone, I think her name was, like that. Maybe there was somebody else, but they weren't. And I was like, I'm like, why can't we get Citizen V, who was the Baron Zemo character? I'm like, why can't we get Citizen V on here? And they said, well, someone else is using that code name. Another character who already had his own code name had to get rid of his code name to use another person's code name, probably so they still had it in use. Like, we couldn't even use Citizen V for Thunderbolts. Like, if you wanted to bring back Thunderbolts, if you asked any fan or any comic book fan, how do you bring back Thunderbolts? You say, you got to do that. You got to get a reveal. And it's so much, because it's not just like pull off a mask. You could say everyone's using little hollow projectors, and they were never how they looked to be. We could have ripped off these holograms, and everybody would have, this guy would have been that guy, that guy would have been that guy, that guy would have been this guy. Moonstone would have been a man. Like we could have got fucking crazy with it, and we just sat and treaded water with this fucking series. And I was like, ugh. And thank God I got on cable, because then I was like, yes, now we're moving somewhere. And that one wasn't too bad, but it was almost like procedural, like a whodunit kind of type thing. And it's like, okay, but if you get a chance to work on cable, like, you want it to be that, some kind of large epic. You want it, it's got to be violent. It doesn't even have to be, overly large. Like when Rob was doing X-Force, like, it didn't get too crazy, but you get your core X-Force group, you get a core amount of villains, Mutant Liberation Front, whatnot, and or Brotherhood, even, what was it? I think it was the Mutant Liberation Front that they were fighting. But anyways, yeah, just small core of villains that look fucking cool. You see fucking a little bit of tits and ass going on, because he had Domino, in the bathtub with fucking Cable, and they're just shooting the shit, and you're like, what? You're a kid, you're like, what? You can't do this in comics. Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah, Strife and MLF. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, so everything about Strife was great. I mean, this fucking guy, and he's got spikes all over. Like, it's just like, it was big. It was even without a super large cast, it still felt big. And that's where I wanted to go with Cable, was like, I really felt like I had to get comfortable, because I don't know if they showed me a toy, but I kind of had to keep all this stuff together. And I was gonna have to draw it for 5 issues, so it was complicated, in terms of all the pouches and accessories and whatnot. But ultimately, where I wanted to go is get right back. Huge. Now that I'm in big shoulder pads, just fucking overloaded, and but the personality needs to be like a no shit nothing. And when we did Cable, he's kind of, I don't know, just a little bit more of like your friendly uncle, and it's like, he's not your uncle, he's your overbearing dad, and the mission's got to get done whether you're going to live or not. That's the character, that's the appeal of Cable, or it was the appeal of Cable. I don't know. I mean, everything's so fucking, I hate to say soy, but everything's so watered down, compared to what it used to be. The costumes are smaller and tighter. People are afraid to stand out. You have editorial, Tom Brevoort, he's afraid to use the Mandarin because of Yellow Peril.
Oh, like, dear Lord.
What is going on with you guys, man? You should take someone like the Mandarin. You get somebody like me on the fucking Mandarin. I will write the shit out of that motherfucker, and he'll be evil as fuck. He's gonna have a big fucking dragon. You know, like it's gonna be balls to the wall, fucking insane. But they're too afraid, and when you're afraid, you can't be creative.
Yeah, that's the same thing why I think comedy is just dead today. Like everyone's just so afraid
Largely,
of,
yeah.
oh God, I don't want to offend this person. Going back to cable and everything, and you were describing again. I didn't really read all those books back in the day, but I mean, just going to the comic shops and looking at everything, you couldn't help but notice, as you said, the huge muscles. Like the men just had these huge bulging muscles. The women were sexy and everything. Just everything was just nice to look at. And I know that Liefeld gets kind of criticism for not being all that realistic, but I thought everything looked really interesting, and when it was just kind of exaggerated and crazy, and I mean
that's part of the problem with the industry too is and Rob actually was posting some old 90s stuff just recently on his Twitter, but he's right. I mean, like if you look at what was going on in the 90s, it was large exaggerations. You look at Sam Keith, his Wolverine, just this monster. I mean, there was just so much great stuff. The old Jay Lee stuff, just fucking insane art was coming out, and it's very stylized. It was very fun to look at. Then the collapse of the industry happened. The image backlash happened. Everybody had to be Jim Lee or Dave Finch or Travis Charest in order to kind of survive, or Brian Hitch. These guys are all great and they're all fantastic, but they also they kind of poison the industry with like everything's dialed down. Like everything, the costumes are no longer bombastic. Everything, the shoulder pads are shrinking.
Let me ask you
start
about that.
Drawing the lines. The trim on your costume is more important now. It's the small details.
When you were drawing like cable and everything, did you have any regrets? Like, oh my God, I made it too too complicated. So like when you had to do an issue or anything, you had to like, shit, I got to constantly draw like all the you gotta
figure out how to make everything. You have to figure out how to make everything work. But no regrets in that, because the very first thing I ever drew for Marvel, which is actually like around 2010, I think, or maybe 2008 actually, was a Cable Deadpool issue, and I only did half the issue. But the very first thing they asked me to draw was a double page spread of classic Cable. So I mean, this was big shoulder pad Cable. His arms are out. He's shooting off page, like his arms are spread out. It was like this double page spread of Cable. I remember even thinking at the time, I'm like, this is all I ever have to draw. I'm like, for me, because that's the stuff I loved. I mean, I was a Rob fan, an X-Force fan. I loved Cable. Like, I mean, that was my time. So when I got to draw Cable in full 1990s outfit, guns blazing, that's all I really need to do. But I got to do half an issue on that, and one of those pages got turned into a T-shirt and went to Hot Topic, and I was like, oh, that's
nice.
Cool. I didn't get any money for it, but whatever.
It's still got to give you a little bit of a little bump of pride there.
But I kind of got what are like, I'm like, it could all end here, you know what I mean? But I got back into Marvel in the the mid-teens, so 2015, 2016, something like that, and did some more work, and I got back on a full Cable book. But yeah, I creatively though, like I want to go directions where I can't go with other writers, like, and especially when a writer is working with an editor. I need to be able to control where things are going. I have my own views on where things should be, what's exciting, what's not exciting, what interests me, or what I find interesting about a character may not be what other people are finding interesting about character. I mean, the writer on Cable thought it was like a cop show. It's like, it's not a cop show. He's not a cop, and he's not your uncle. So
no,
he's a hardened military guy from dystopic future. So.
What did you think of Josh Brolin's take on him?
Josh Brolin has a big head and tiny shoulders. That's what.
Mm.
Like if you get someone with Cable, you got to find somebody with wide shoulders. Like I'd say often that for a lot of these superhero castings, especially someone like Cable, you don't have to say a lot. So you could actually get Arnold into a character like Cable. Arnold would be a lot better to play Cable if he wasn't already inspired by Arnold to begin with,
Right.
I mean, he's basically the Terminator. So I mean, that to me, it's like saying, what do you think about if Josh Brolin was a Terminator? I'd say, well, it's not Arnold.
Yeah,
it's a
good
little
point.
little guy, just a little guy. Like you need to get someone that's 6 foot, whatever, 2, 4.
He has that
bodybuilding.
gruff personality, but yeah, you're right. The body was definitely lacking.
I think almost all superheroes in movies, especially these tough guys, should be 6'4". Like the actors should be 6'4". I think the Wolverine character should be 5'4", whatever he is in the books.
Yeah,
and he should be standing next to a guy that's 5'4", and you should be able to see the difference in height. It shouldn't be that. Again, it shouldn't be where everybody's in the middle, because that's where we are. Everything's just right here. There can't be any huge contrast anymore. They can't have anything that sticks out. You need to learn to settle. Everything's got to settle right here. And I find that incredibly boring. That wasn't the kind of comics I was reading, when I was a kid. I mean, you get Cable, he's this big, he's standing next to a smaller Wolverine or the Thumbelina,
Oh my God,
shape, size changers and stuff, but if everybody's big, then nobody's big. And if everybody's medium, then who fucking cares?
That's a good point. I know I liked in X-Men 2, X2, I liked the guy that they had who played Colossus, but because he just kind of looked like maybe a big, stocky kind of, I don't know if he was Russian in real life.
Yeah, he was a younger guy, right?
Yeah. But I mean, he was tall, like you said. He had the build for it. And then they had just this really quick scene where he just, just metals up and everything. And, but that was all you saw of it. And it was just kind of like,
yeah, and that's kind of like, give the fans what they want. They want Colossus. We want a movie with full-on Colossus going on there with the rest of the common X-Men roster. Like, how is that so difficult? Just give everybody what they want. Do it. Just give it to them.
Do it.
But then you get something like, again, to kind of go back on that, is like,
happy birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Aaron. It's like the Apocalypse casting that they did for whatever X-Men movie that was, where they brought in Oscar Isaac, who I think I think he's a tremendous actor. I don't even know what his politics are, but I think I watched him in Moon Knight, and that kind of convinced me. And then you watch him in Dune, and you're like, this guy's good. He's got presence.
I liked him in Dune.
Really good. But he's a shorty, like he's 5 foot something. And when you watch him walk on the screen and he's the same size or smaller than everybody else, you get this little short guy walking around and saying, you can call me Apocalypse. And you're like, how are you selling that? He should be like 8 feet tall, man. Like he should be inhuman. Like
that should have been,
your name is Apocalypse.
Yeah, that should have been a case for when they use the CG to kind of complement the actor and everything. But yeah,
they're just saving money. They're saving money because they're not trying to hit that contrast. They're going to settle. Everyone can deal with a 5. Suspend their belief and deal with a 5'8" guy walking around calling himself Apocalypse. No, Apocalypse should walk into any fucking room and everybody has to fucking pay attention. Not because he's some wacko in blue face paint, but because he's 8 feet tall. Basketball players.
I remember the 90s. You remember the 90s cartoon X-Men when they had him come and they had him and then they had Sinister and they just freaked me out as a kid. I wish they could have recreated that on screen. That would
there
have
you
been
go.
fun.
Yeah.
But I know you just had the closeout yesterday. I was going to kind of segue a little bit for the CG triple threat.
Oh, it's in demand.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted to bring that up real quick because I ended up backing the Virgin covers. I think it looks really nice together there. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
No, great. Thank you.
Let's see. Show on stream here. Let me get to the right window. Okay, so yeah, like these bad boys. So you guys did make it over 41,000. You're really close to 42,000. And all these proceeds, I'm guessing, were in excess of the cost of the books and everything. They were going to go to help fund the C2E2 convention.
Yeah,
and
myself, Ethan, Shane, we're all going to C2E2 this year. We already bought the space.
Awesome.
We're in the premiere section, so when people walk in the door, we're going to be somewhere there, probably within I don't know, 50 yards. I don't know how big the premiere section is, but we should be there. And so that costs a pretty penny. So what we did is we sold these books, and instead of putting the profit in our pocket, we're telling people that, hey, we're using this to invest to get out to some shows. So
yeah,
we're doing C2E2, and we encourage everybody to go out there. That's April 26th of this year now, but that's going to be a big event. Yeah, so we're using that money to get out there.
I haven't been to C2E2. I've been to like several Comic-Cons and everything. So how does this compare to something like
I've never been to C2E2 either.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I've never been there. Yeah. So but my understanding is it's the number 3 convention. So it's probably going to be a pretty good sized convention. I don't know if Marvel or DC even have a presence there. Like, the industry is weird right now. So but we're going to go there, and we're going to set up, and we're going to have a good time. And we hope that other comic skaters are going to get some space of their own, be it, you can be like us and get on the premiere, but that's expensive. But there is Artist Alley, and then we hope that all the people and everyone in the audience, the chat, whatnot, that they show up there, come on out there, and even if it's not to support us, but maybe to support other comic skaters, other independent creators that are out there. So I think it's going to be a big thing to do.
Yeah, I have to say that I got to go to the Tampa thing. I did not go to the dungeon, thank God. I don't know how I would have handled that. I think my eyes would have melted out of my skull or something. But I don't do all that kind of weird stuff. But it was nice to just see the other fans and kind of put faces to the names and the avatars and everything. And I don't know exactly if I'll be able to make it to Chicago, but I'd love to be able to go. So I'm gonna try, see what happens. But let's see. My homie and personal rival said that the CG2E2, the Diaz brothers are going to throw a CG party at their arcade. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I guess they do that.
I got to meet Phil and Brandon, and they are really nice guys. So just salt of the earth type of guys. So if anybody is interested in getting out on that, definitely check out the C2E2 website and get some more details on that. And but look at these great covers. You have the triple threat covers and everything, the convention specials, which have the what do you call it? The trade dress or whatever on it. Is that
the dressing? Yeah. But just so I can explain that real quick.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, like that's the 3 convention covers, and then you slide them together, and it forms that larger image.
So you can get the individual books if you wanted to, but definitely the
you'll be able to get these at the shows. So if you actually go to C2E2, the convention specials you could just buy there. So I encourage people to get the Virgin covers, because those are limited to 750 copies.
That's what it would look like with these bad boys all put together. That's actually what I ended up getting. I didn't know initially that they were going to be limited, and then when I heard that, I was like, I don't want to miss out.
Yeah, great.
Don't suffer from FOMO, everybody. Just do it. Just get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to mention that and everything. And I do know you have your gauntlet that you're going to be going into here coming up at 11 Eastern.
Oh yeah, I'm going over to Well Read Users channel. I think it's his channel. And they read Omega Storm as well, so they're going to tell me what they thought about it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Smiller is going to be there to really stick it to me. I don't know. So
yeah.
But anyway, so guys, go over there if you're looking for a little drama tonight. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's just going to be chill. I don't know. But,
I don't know. Light up a J, have some bullet bourbon or something, and
yeah,
don't take no shit from nobody.
yeah. All right. Yeah,
but
so
yeah,
it'll be fine. Yeah, everyone be sure to subscribe to this channel.
Thank
Abra.
you.
She does good reviews on here. I don't know if you guys watched. She actually does some full-on movie reviews.
Yeah, I try to cover the pop culture thing, movies, video games, TV shows, although I don't watch too much new TV anymore. And of course, comics. So
oh yeah, and your Black Riding Hood review was hilarious. So yeah,
I had fun with that. I actually went to an elementary school that was like 85% Black, and it was like not like a test project type of thing, but they did, bus people in, and they were trying to get all the races and everything integrated. Although this was post integration, but it was nice when I was younger. It wasn't, like I said before, this whole, oh, you're Black, oh, you're white. It was just more of a colorblind type of thing. But yeah, as I think you would put it, I lived with the Blacks, I was raised with the Blacks.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything.
All my best friends are Black.
I love how you put the emphasis on it.
Yeah.
Cracks me up. Oh, Velcro on the ceilings. Are we talking about the dungeon again? I do not know. But anyway, I wanted to thank everyone. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it. If you would consider subscribing to the channel, I would really appreciate it. That would mean a lot to me. I am trying to grow my channel and hopefully eventually get monetized. And then I can get super chats and have you guys call me a geeky or retarded or whatever.
All night.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So yeah, thank you everyone. Please hit that like button if you will. And thank you for stopping by. And thank you so much, Jon Malin. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to read the book. And that was really kind of you.
Thanks for going through it. Glad you liked it. Glad you were shocked by it. I think all the reactions that I wanted, people are getting. So that's good. Yeah, and there's some criticism out there, and that's fine. So
I think that's good. I mean, Ethan's right. We all have to have a little bit of criticism to grow as individuals, not just with art, but in life in general. So, yeah, we gotta take it like men. Well,
right.
You got to take it like a man, but
that's right. Yep.
All right. But thank you so much, everyone. If you wouldn't mind hanging out for just a few minutes, Jon, and then I'll let you get prepped for your next show. But thank you so much, everyone. I will see you actually on Thursday. I'll put up the deets probably tomorrow. I have a show coming up on Thursday with the great Andy Smith. So that should be a good time.
Nice. Andy's a good person. Wodenshot said, "This is my hug box." Thank you, Wodenshot.
Aw. Nice.
Wodenshot is the newest chat celebrity, by the way. So everyone should be very blessed that he's here today.
I like that name. It's pretty cool. And I saw that owl thing yesterday. That was the stuff of nightmares. But all right. But yeah, thank you, everyone. And have a wonderful rest of your Sunday evening. Bye.
50 sets off of me. I've had enough. Get the hell out of my house. In Jesus' name, I pray.